There's a pattern hidden in your pain. Every attack you faced, every betrayal, every moment someone tried to dim your light, every inexplicable hardship that seemed to come from nowhere wasn't random. It was targeted. And the reason it felt so personal is because it was. The greater the resistance you encounter, the greater the destiny you carry. This isn't philosophy. This is spiritual law. You've probably noticed it by now. How certain people seem to move through life unscathed, untested, barely touched by the chaos that surrounds them. And then there's you, always in the storm, always facing the impossible, always breaking just to rebuild. You've asked yourself why. Why does it feel like the universe has singled you out for suffering? Why does growth cost you so much more than it costs others? Here's the truth they don't tell you. Ordinary destinies don't attract extraordinary attacks. The person called to change one life won't face the same resistance as the person called to shift a generation. The soul here to learn a quiet lesson won't be hunted the way a soul here to break chains is hunted. If your life has felt like a battlefield, it's because you came here to fight a war most people don't even know is happening. Think about it. Really think. Every major spiritual figure, every revolutionary, every person who shifted the consciousness of humanity, they were all attacked, not just criticized, attacked, targeted, opposed by forces that seemed disproportionate to their actions. Jesus wasn't crucified for being nice. He was crucified for threatening the established order. Buddha wasn't simply ignored. He was challenged by demons, tested in ways that would break most minds. Joan of Arc wasn't burned at the stake for being a little different. She was eliminated because her presence awakened something dangerous to the powers that wanted people asleep. And you're not exempt from this pattern. You might not be leading armies or founding religions, but if you're carrying a mission that threatens the status quo of unconsciousness, you will be opposed. If your awakening has the potential to awaken others, you will be targeted. The attack isn't personal, it's strategic. Let me describe what this looks like in your life. You start to awaken. You begin to see through the illusions, question the narratives, remember who you really are. And suddenly, everything gets harder. Relationships that were fine start to crumble. People you trusted turn on you without explanation. Opportunities disappear. Your health falters. Money becomes scarce. It's as if the moment you step toward your truth, reality itself conspired to push you back. This isn't coincidence, it's resistance. And the intensity of that resistance is directly proportional to the magnitude of what you're here to do. Most people interpret this opposition as a sign they're on the wrong path. They think, if this were meant for me, it would be easier. If I were truly aligned, things would flow. So they retreat. They dim themselves. They convince themselves that the calling they felt was ego, that the vision they had was delusion, that the mission they sensed was arrogance. They go back to sleep, and the attack stops, because the attack was never about punishing you. It was about stopping you. Think of it this way. Imagine a river, calm and predictable, flowing in the same direction it's flowed for centuries. Now imagine a single boulder, placed deliberately in that river's path. The water doesn't ignore the boulder, it crashes against it. It roars, it churns and foams and fights with everything it has to move that obstacle. The boulder experiences the full force of the river's resistance. But why? Because the boulder has the potential to change the river's course. If the boulder stands firm, the water must flow differently. The entire landscape downstream will shift. You are that boulder. And the river is the collective unconsciousness of humanity, flowing in patterns of fear, control, limitation, separation. Your presence, your awakening, your refusal to conform, your commitment to truth is an obstacle to that flow. So the river crashes against you, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something powerful. Carl Jung called this the encounter with the shadow, not just your personal shadow, but the collective shadow. The parts of humanity that don't want to wake up, that profit from sleep, that are invested in the old paradigms. When you begin to embody a frequency that threatens those paradigms, you don't just face your own darkness. You face the accumulated darkness of everyone who benefits from keeping things as they are. And here's what makes this even more challenging. The attack rarely looks like an attack. It comes disguised as concern, as logic, as well-meaning advice from people who love you. You're being too intense. You need to be realistic. You're going to burn yourself out. This isn't healthy. They're not consciously trying to stop you. They're unconsciously terrified of what your transformation will demand of them. Your freedom is a mirror that shows them their cage, so they, without even realizing it, become agents of the very resistance you're here to overcome. This is the loneliness of the chosen path. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you're willing to carry what most refuse to touch. You're willing to be misunderstood, to be labeled, to walk through the fire while everyone else is choosing comfort. And that willingness, that strange, inexplicable commitment to keep going, even when every rational reason says stop, that's how you know. That's how you recognize yourself. The chosen one isn't chosen because they're special. They're chosen because they're willing. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and join a community of awakened souls walking the same journey of spiritual alignment. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about why the attack intensifies right before the breakthrough. You've experienced this. You're on the edge of something. A new level of awareness, a new opportunity, a new version of yourself. And right before you step through, everything collapses. The relationship ends. The job falls apart. The illness appears. The betrayal happens. And it feels cruel. It feels like proof that you were wrong to hope, wrong to try, wrong to believe you were meant for more. But this is the final test. This is the crucible. The universe isn't punishing you, it's preparing you. Because the mission you're about to step into requires a version of you that can handle what the current version of you cannot. The attack isn't meant to stop you. It's meant to forge you. Think about metal. Raw ore pulled from the earth is useless. It's brittle, impure, weak. To become a sword, it must be thrust into fire, melted down, hammered, folded, thrust into fire again. The process looks like destruction. The metal is broken apart, reshaped, subjected to temperatures that seem unbearable. But the smith isn't destroying the metal. The smith is revealing what the metal was always capable of becoming. You are being forged. Every attack, every loss, every impossible circumstance, fire. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't, the hammer. Every time you were broken and chose to rebuild, the folding. You're not being destroyed, you're being refined. And the reason the heat is so intense is because the weapon you're becoming must be strong enough to cut through what others can't. The people who tried to break you, they were part of the forging. The circumstances that brought you to your knees, they were the fire. The doubt that whispered you'd never make it, that was the test to see if you'd believe your strength or your fear. And you're still here. That means you passed. But here's what most people miss. The attack doesn't end when you break through. It changes form. It becomes more subtle, more strategic, more psychological. Because once you've proven you can withstand external pressure, the resistance goes internal. It becomes the voice in your head that says, "Who do you think you are?" It becomes the imposter syndrome that shows up right when you're about to share your gift. It becomes the self-sabotage that makes you retreat right when you're about to be seen. This is the final battleground, not the world outside, the world inside. And this battle is won not by fighting but by remembering. Remembering that you didn't come here to fit in. Remembering that your discomfort with the ordinary is because you're built for the extraordinary. Remembering that the reason you've survived every attack is because you carry something that cannot be destroyed. A mission encoded in your soul that existed before you took your first breath and will exist after you take your last. You've been trained for this. Every hardship was a lesson. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every loss taught you detachment. Every moment of isolation taught you self-reliance. Every attack revealed who you are when everything is stripped away. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a warrior shaped by them. And now you're being called to stop defending and start creating. To stop reacting to the attacks and start fulfilling the mission. Because the attacks will never fully stop. Not as long as you're doing work that matters. But they lose their power the moment you stop seeing them as obstacles and start seeing them as confirmation. Every time someone tries to stop you, they're confirming you're going in the right direction. Every time something falls apart, it's making room for what's meant to come together. Every time you face resistance, it's because you're touching something real, something powerful, something that threatens the illusion. So here's the shift. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Start asking, "What am I being prepared for?" Stop seeing yourself as under attack. Start seeing yourself as under construction. Stop waiting for permission or validation or ease. Start recognizing that your willingness to keep walking, even when every external sign says turn back, is the very thing that qualifies you for what's coming. The chosen one doesn't have an easier path. They have a clearer purpose. And that purpose is worth every battle, every scar, every moment of doubt. Because on the other side of this initiation is a version of you that can hold what you've been praying for. A version of you that can carry the frequency you're meant to transmit. A version of you that doesn't need the world's approval because you've touched something deeper than the world can give or take away. This is what the mystics mean when they talk about initiation. This is what the ancient texts describe when they speak of the hero's journey. This is what every spiritual tradition acknowledges, that true transformation requires a death, not a physical death, but an ego death. A death of who you thought you were, who you were told to be, who you've been pretending to be to stay safe. And that death is terrifying. It feels like annihilation. It feels like you're losing yourself, but you're not losing yourself. You're losing the costume, the mask, the small, limited, fear-based version of you that was never really you to begin with. And underneath that, the infinite, eternal, indestructible truth of who you are. The soul that came here with a mission. The consciousness that chose this body, this life, this specific set of challenges because it knew before you forgot that this is exactly what you need to become who you are meant to be. So when the next attack comes, and it will, don't collapse. Don't question. Don't retreat. Stand in the center of the storm and remember, this is preparation. This is confirmation. This is the universe saying, you're strong enough now, you're ready. It's time. And one day when you're standing in the fullness of your purpose, when you're living the mission you were always meant to live, you'll look back at every attack and understand. You'll see the pattern. You'll recognize the training. You'll realize that every person who opposed you was playing their role perfectly. Every obstacle was placed exactly where it needed to be. Every breakdown was a breakthrough in disguise. You'll understand that the reason for the attack was always the destiny you carry, and you'll be grateful, not for the pain, but for what the pain revealed. Not for the suffering, but for the strength it forged. Not for the enemies, but for the mission they confirmed. Because here's the final truth, the one that changes everything. You are not here by accident. You are not a random collection of atoms stumbling through a meaningless existence. You are a deliberate expression of consciousness, placed in this exact moment in history, with this exact set of gifts, to do something that no one else can do. Your mission is not optional. It's encoded. It's inevitable. It's why you're still breathing. The attacks tried to stop you. They failed. The doubt tried to convince you to quit. It failed. The world tried to make you small. It failed. Because you are not governable by external forces. You are guided by something internal, something ancient. Something that remembers why you came and refuses to let you forget. So stop hiding. Stop apologizing. Stop making yourself smaller to make others comfortable. The world doesn't need another person playing safe. The world needs you, fully activated, fully expressed, fully embodied in your truth. And yes, that's terrifying. Yes, that will invite more resistance. Yes, some people will reject you, but the right people will find you. The right opportunities will align. The right doors will open. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you've become strong enough to handle what's real. This is your initiation. This is your awakening. This is your moment to decide, will you believe the attack, or will you believe the destiny? Will you shrink back into the safety of the known, or will you step forward into the uncertainty of your calling? Will you let the resistance define you, or will you let it refine you? The choice has always been yours, but the truth is you've already chosen. You chose the moment you survived what should have destroyed you. You chose the moment you kept going when every logical reason said, stop. You chose the moment you started asking deeper questions, seeking truer answers, refusing to accept the surface explanations for why life feels the way it does. You chose this. And the fact that you're here, listening to these words, feeling them land in a place deeper than your mind, that's not coincidence. That's recognition. Your soul recognizing itself in the mirror of truth. So here's the final message, the one you need to carry with you as you walk forward. The reason you've been attacked is because you matter. The reason you face so much resistance is because your presence creates change. The reason life has been harder for you than it seems to be for others is because you're not here for the same reasons others are here. You're here to break cycles, to shift paradigms, to embody a frequency that dissolves the old and makes space for the new. And that's not a burden. That's an honor. That's the highest calling a soul can answer. So wear your scars like armor. Let your story become medicine. Step into the fullness of who you are without apology, without hesitation, without fear. Because the world is waiting. Not for you to be perfect, but for you to be real. Not for you to have all the answers, but for you to live the questions. Not for you to be fearless, but for you to be courageous enough to move forward even when you're afraid. The destiny you carry is bigger than the attacks you've faced, and the mission you're here to fulfill is already unfolding, whether you fully understand it yet or not. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust the process that has brought you this far and will carry you the rest of the way. You are the chosen one. Not because you're better, but because you're willing. And that changes everything. If this resonated with you, don't just consume this message and move on. Let it activate something in you. Subscribe to this channel, not for me, but for you. Because you need reminders. You need reflections. You need to be surrounded by voices that speak to the truth you're remembering, not the lies you're unlearning. Like this video if it touched something real in you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because your awakening isn't just about you. It's about everyone your light will touch when you finally stop hiding it. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The attacks have forged you. Now go build the destiny you were born to fulfill.